I explain it as a neurological condition that that causes the brain to fire neurons around. It's a syndrome with a spectrum of different things that causes you to do involuntary twitches or swears.
So I have facial tics. I have a terrible neck tic, which also gives me some struggles. You know, I tic throughout my hands, my feet. I always have to wear my shoes a little bit big because my feet tick, and I have a really strong tic in my stomach as well, and in my lips, and I have a bit of a throat tic.
Sometimes it starts out with a tic where they wiggle their nose or sniffle, and tics are often manifestations of something else. So if you have a cold, a lot of times, you know, whereas everybody else will recover and get better, when you have Tourette syndrome, sometimes you'll continue to sniff or cough or make faces. A lot of tics are with blinking or squinting or rolling your eyes. So as a parent, once you get that diagnosis, you sort of deal with the fact, oh, it's Tourette syndrome, and what do I know about, or have I heard about Tourette syndrome, which is often not entirely accurate information.
Well, my parents knew I had something when I was like about 3 even, but they didn't know it was Tourette's. They thought it was some kind of behavioral issue. But then when I was about 5 or 6 years old, I was diagnosed with it. And it started off being just like me saying potty words or just simple words or twitches that they thought were more behavioral.
It was devastating. I felt very unsure of where to go, what to do, how to help. That was, for me, a very difficult time. Wanting answers without being able to find any as far as what it meant for her future, what it meant for school, because she had just started 1st grade, and getting to know where would we end up. I had seen, you know, people who were so severe, and seeing that she wasn't at that point, kind of fearful that would she get to that point. But it was devastating to know that she was going to have this hurdle to jump for the rest of her life.
How is this going to affect my child? What I see on TV, is he or she going to start swearing?
It's not contagious. You're born this way. It's hereditary.
People will just assume that she's misbehaving, or if she, you know, it's a joke. People will stare. That's a big thing. People will be out at a restaurant and she'll be taking in. People will stare. People will mock. That's very difficult. It's very hurtful.
When you tell someone what Tourette's is, the first thing that comes to their minds is people who swear and cuss from like the media. I just think there needs to be more education of what really is Tourette's. It's just not some guy fooling around swearing and cussing at people. It's a lot more than just that.
Everybody from movies and TVs thinks that it's all about swearing, and that's called coprolalia, and it does occur, unfortunately, in about 10% of people with Tourette syndrome, but that is not, you know, there's 90% of us don't do that and never will. We don't shout things out. We don't, you know, it happens, but that's a misconception. The problem with it is that people think that that's all that Tourette syndrome is.
People just assume that she'll be shouting out swear words, and that's what Tourette's is. And for a very small percent of people, that is part of their Tourette's. For us, we don't have coprolalia, so we don't have the shouting out of inappropriate words.
People don't understand. They think I'm just trying to be funny or loud or annoying, and they don't know that I can't control it. And it's not like something I choose to do.
A lot of Tourette behaviors and tics look and can appear very controllable. And it's important that people remember that they're not. People with Tourette syndrome do things. You can have complex motor tics like ripping paper or kissing, or things that look like you're just sort of being naughty that are not able to be controlled.
Yeah, I've noticed that my tics get worse in situations where I know that I have to hold in my tics and I can't tic. Those are the times when it gets worse. Or sometimes when I'm excited as well, like there's the last day of school or whatever. Sometimes my tics are bad in those times.
I know I can't really control the tics that they're going to happen, but I camouflage them well. But there's times when I'm in a really, really stressful situation that I really have a difficult time even camouflaging.
The other really difficult part that seems to affect a lot of kids and adults with Tourette syndrome are when they have those comorbid conditions. So you could be ticking but also have attentional issues, also have severe anxiety, obsessive compulsive disorder, depression, sometimes all of the above. So it's really sort of a piling on of conditions and then sometimes symptoms, and it can be, it's almost unfair is what we say. It's just not fair.
As a Tourette sufferer, also I have OCD as well. I have kind of a germophobia sort of thing, so touching things would bother me even as a child.
It's tough being a kid when you're making funny faces and you can't help it. I mean, you really can't. It's not something that's controllable.
Tourette sometimes impacts my social capabilities and how to act around my friends and social issues, and my tics themselves make it a little hard too.
When people misunderstand and when they make jokes about it, that's truly two of the biggest hurdles that Tourette sufferers that they deal with.
It's something that hurts and something that I will remember, but it's something to learn from as well.
Sometimes I see rude things that just sometimes make me want to cry.
It definitely affects different people differently, and some people struggle a lot more, but the sky's the limit. Most of us and most of the kids that we've worked with Tourette syndrome are extremely intelligent, bright, very funny, big personalities. It's not a cognitive disorder.
I work, I have a job, I'm able to hopefully contribute back to society with what I do with my work in it. I think for me to give children, when they say, hey, Rod's living a life here, Rod's has a job, Rod gets to play in some bands, Rod gets to work as a performer. I think kids sometimes they think that and they think, well, what am I going to be like when I grow up? We might be a little different than other people, but different's okay.
I think a lot of people haven't been around a lot of people with Tourette syndrome to know that you can still, be very successful and lead a very productive life. It's just one of those things that sort of can get in the way.
When you have Tourette's, you still can live a life. And I want kids to know that. That's important to me.
A lot of the parents that call when their kids are first diagnosed are very concerned, and they don't know, what is this going to mean for my child going forward.
I know for me, I reached out to TSA of Illinois when Kate was first diagnosed because I didn't know where else to go. I read books, I read articles, but I needed to talk to someone. I'd done all the research online, but I needed that personal interaction where I could sit down with somebody and have that personal understanding. So I reached out to them, and they were a huge help for me, not only with pointing me in the direction of doctors, but also psychiatrists, counselors, behavioral therapists. That was our first time as a family when we went to a Tourette's picnic, meeting someone else who had Tourette's, talking to another mother, having Kate meet another child who had Tourette's, and that was huge.
Because at that time I hadn't met anyone else.
Right.
TSA Illinois is the second oldest chapter of the National Tourette Syndrome Association in the country, and we've been around for over 30 years. We specialize in education, advocacy, and support for children with Tourette syndrome, adults with Tourette syndrome, and those affected, their families, their friends. One of the things that we're most proud of at TSA Illinois is that we probably conduct more in-service presentations at schools where we're talking to classes, we're talking to kids, we're talking to teachers than any other chapter in the country. And that's really one of our fortes. We also run support groups throughout the state.
Staring does not help, laughing does not help, pointing does not help. And if you see someone who may be acting a little different, or a child who may be having a meltdown, staring is not helpful. Dirty looks, dirty comments, it doesn't help anyone. So I think compassion, acceptance, understanding that these families as a whole already know that there's an issue, and staring at us doesn't really help us any.
And it's not a joke.
All of our funding is donation-based. We do a fundraising campaign one time a year. All of the monies we get is generally used for maintaining an office, telephone, computer, send people to do in-services at schools, produce materials that we give out at schools. We do some educational workshops where we will use space and bring in large groups of people and educate them on what Tourette's is and what Tourette's is not. We don't pay anybody at this point. Everybody that is a part of our organization is a volunteer. So they get, they only get the